The deep space vessel ISS Peregrine moved silently through the dark stretch of the Rho Draconis Nebula. From the ship's bridge, Captain Elias Trent watched the swirling lights outside, rivers of color and dust twisting in slow motion. It was beautiful, but there was something uneasy about it too. The nebula shimmered as if alive, breathing in light and exhaling darkness. Elias had been a space explorer for over 15 years. He had seen many strange things: dying stars, frozen planets, and alien ruins half buried in cosmic dust. But something about this nebula felt different. It wasn't just silent. It was watching. He stood with his hands behind his back, his expression calm but his mind restless. The mission was supposed to be routine, a mapping expedition to scan radiation waves and record data. But the readings they were getting were nothing like what their instruments had seen before. "Captain," said Dr. Lyra Voss, the ship's lead scientist, her soft voice breaking the silence. The energy readings just spiked again. "The frequency isn't stable, it's almost rhythmic." Elias turned toward her. "Rhythmic? Like a pulse?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, it's repeating every 16 seconds. It's almost as if something inside the nebula is alive." Navigator Kane, sitting at his console, let out a quiet whistle. "Alive nebula, huh? That's a first. Maybe it wants to say hello." Dr. Voss didn't smile. "I'm serious, Kane. Look at these patterns. They're structured. There's order here. It's not random energy." Elias studied the display. The reading showed a series of repeating waves, symmetrical, perfect, and far too deliberate to be natural. "Send a probe," he said. "Let's see what's out there." The small probe launched into the misty blue clouds outside the ship. Its camera sent back images of swirling energy, shapes that moved like water under moonlight. Then for a second something solid flickered into view. A shape, a silhouette. "Hold it there," Elias ordered. Rewind the footage. They replayed the short clip. Between the ribbons of light, a faint outline appeared, tall, slender, and almost human. It lasted barely a second before vanishing again. Dr. Voss leaned closer to the screen. "That's impossible. There's no matter out there. It's all radiation and plasma." But the figure had been there. They all saw it. Elias felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Download all data from that frame. We'll analyze it later." Kane forced a nervous laugh. "Great, ghosts in space. Just what I needed." The rest of the day passed in tense silence. The crew spoke little. The hum of the engines and the soft blinking of lights became the only sounds in the control room. Elias tried to focus on his duties, but that strange pulse kept echoing in the back of his mind. 16 seconds. Over and over that night he couldn't sleep. He stood alone in the observation bay, staring out into the endless blue haze. It reminded him of the ocean back on Earth, the one he and his wife Mara had watched together years ago before she died. The memory hurt, but he held on to it anyway. Space had taken her in a way. She had worked on an experimental communication project, meant to send human neural patterns into deep space. The project failed and she was lost. Her body was never recovered. Now standing here, Elias thought of her again. The nebula's pulse almost sounded like a heartbeat. Suddenly the ship shook violently. The floor trembled under his feet. Alarms blared through the corridor. "Bridge to captain. Massive radiation surge incoming." Kane's voice crackled through the intercom. Elias ran for the bridge, heart pounding. The crew scrambled at their stations. Sparks flashed from a console as power flickered. Shields dropping. Someone shouted, "Stabilize!" Elias ordered. "Redirect auxiliary power to shields." Now the lights dimmed. The nebula outside grew brighter, as if reacting to their presence. The ship's sensors went wild, filling the room with a storm of static and alarm tones. Then came a deafening hum. Low, deep, almost like a voice hidden beneath the static. Elias moved toward the control panel, gripping the edge for balance as the ship rocked. He saw Dr. Voss across the bridge trying to secure the data drives. Smoke filled the air. He pushed forward through the haze, reaching out to steady her. "Lyra!" "Hold on." He reached for her hand, but what he touched wasn't her. The hand that met his was cold. Too cold. It felt smooth, weightless, and almost liquid. The world around him seemed to freeze for a heartbeat. The noise, the alarms, the shaking. Everything stopped. And standing before him was a figure made of light. She was human in shape, but her body shimmered like water reflecting stars. Her face was clear enough to see, gentle, familiar, impossible. Elias's breath caught in his throat. It was her. It was Mara. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, filled with something between sadness and warning. When she spoke, her voice was soft, like wind through glass. "You should not have found me." Not yet. Elias couldn't move. He couldn't speak. His hands still hovered in the air, the ghostly light brushing against his fingertips. Then, as quickly as she appeared, she faded away, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. The ship jolted back into motion. The alarm screamed. Reality snapped back. Elias stumbled, gasping for air. Kane grabbed his arm. "Captain, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Elias blinked, trying to focus. I don't know what I saw." Dr. Voss ran over, coughing through the smoke. "We've stabilized the shields, but the probe's signal is gone." The energy surge came from directly ahead. Elias's eyes widened. Ahead? That's where... He stopped himself. He didn't want to sound mad. That's where she had been. They spent the next few hours repairing systems. The crew worked quietly, afraid to ask questions. When the chaos finally ended, the bridge was left in eerie silence. Outside, the nebula pulsed slowly, glowing brighter than before. Dr. Voss reviewed the sensor logs. "Captain, something strange happened during the surge. We picked up an energy signature inside the nebula." "What kind of signature?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "Human." The word hit him like a shockwave. "That's impossible." "I checked twice," she said. "DNA markers. Human pattern." The signal appeared for 6 seconds and then vanished. Elias stared at the screen. "Coordinates?" She brought them up. The same direction where he had seen the figure. Kane frowned. "What are you saying, Doc? There's a person out there? In that?" Dr. Voss shook her head. "No living human could survive there. But whatever it is, it's echoing human data." Elias felt his heartbeat quicken. He turned toward the viewing window. The nebula glowed faintly in the distance like a soft blue sea under starlight. He could still hear her voice in his mind. "You should not have found me." Not yet. That night, while the rest of the crew rested, Elias sat alone in the captain's quarters. He replayed the event again and again in his head. The light, the touch, the voice. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like a memory. It felt real. He opened the mission log and began to record. Captain's log. Day 187. We encountered an unknown anomaly inside the Rho Draconis Nebula. A human-like entity appeared during the energy surge. I interacted with it. The voice resembled someone I once knew. I can't explain how, but I believe the nebula holds something alive. Something connected to us. He paused, staring at the flickering light above him, and I think it knows my name. Outside the ship, unseen by anyone, the nebula pulsed once, exactly 16 seconds apart, as if answering him. 3 days had passed since the strange event in the nebula. The crew of the ISS Peregrine tried to move on, but the atmosphere on the ship had changed. People spoke in low voices. They worked quietly, avoiding each other's eyes. The strange signal they had detected, the one that carried a human DNA echo, kept replaying in everyone's thoughts. Captain Elias Trent didn't sleep much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. The figure made of light, the hand he had touched by mistake, and that whisper, the words that refused to leave his mind. "You should not have found me." Not yet. He spent hours in the data lab staring at the readings from the surge. He tried to convince himself it was an illusion, a stress hallucination, or some kind of energy trick. But deep inside, he knew that wasn't true. He had felt her hand. He had heard her voice, and he was sure of one thing. That voice belonged to Mara, his wife. Dr. Lyra Voss, ever calm and logical, joined him at the console that morning. She looked tired but focused. "You've been awake all night again," she said softly. Elias nodded without looking at her. "There's something here, Lyra. The readings, they're too perfect. That signal wasn't random. It carried information. And the DNA sequence you found, it matches her." Dr. Voss folded her arms. "Captain, you have to be careful. Grief can make us see what we want to see. I don't doubt what you felt, but..." He turned sharply toward her. "I know what I heard, Doctor." She said my name. That silenced her. She could see the truth in his eyes, and this wasn't obsession. It was fear mixed with longing. After a pause, she said quietly, "The nebula's radiation patterns have shifted again. The pulse frequency changed from 16 seconds to 12. It's reacting to something, maybe to us." Elias straightened. Show me. They walked to the main bridge. Navigator Kane sat at his station rubbing his temples. Captain, I was about to call you. The nebula's glowing brighter, and get this. It's syncing with our ship's power cycles. Elias frowned. You mean it's mirroring us? Kane nodded. Exactly. It's like it's learning. The ship drifted slowly through the haze, its lights reflecting off the blue clouds around it. Every flicker of the ship's systems echoed faintly outside, like a reflection made of energy. Then suddenly the ship's comm system crackled. Elias? The voice was faint but unmistakable. Everyone froze. Elias's heart jumped in his chest. The voice was hers, soft, familiar, filled with the same warmth he had once known. Kane's eyes widened. What was that? Dr. Voss turned toward the captain slowly. It's her, isn't it? Before Elias could answer, the voice came again. Do you remember me? The bridge filled with silence. No one moved. The lights dimmed slightly as if the ship itself was listening. Elias stepped closer to the comm console. Mara, is that you? The speakers hummed. Static washed through the air. Then faintly, you followed the signal. You weren't supposed to. Elias's throat tightened. Where are you? What happened to you? There was a long pause. Then she whispered again, barely audible. I am part of it now, and it is part of me. The comms went dead. Kane looked around nervously. Captain, this is getting way beyond weird. That thing out there, and whatever it is when it's not safe. But Elias wasn't listening. His mind was spinning. Part of it now. What did that mean? Dr. Voss moved toward him. Captain, remember what happened with the early neural transmission program? The one your wife worked on? He nodded slowly. Yes, they were trying to send human consciousness through quantum frequencies. Across deep space. And the experiment failed, Voss continued. Or so they said. Elias stared at her. You think this nebula absorbed the transmission? It's possible, she said. The nebula's structure is like a living data field. It reacts to memory and thought. If her consciousness was encoded and lost in space, this place could have stored it. Kane blinked in disbelief. You're saying the nebula remembered her? Voss nodded. Yes, it might have preserved her mind, not as a body but as energy. The captain felt his knees weaken. The idea sounded insane, but it also made a strange kind of sense. His wife had worked on a project to reach the stars. Maybe she had reached farther than anyone ever imagined. He whispered, She's alive, in some way. Dr. Voss placed a hand on his shoulder, or what's left of her is. But Captain, listen carefully. The nebula might not understand the difference between life and data. If it copies us, it could trap us too. Elias stared at her. You think it's dangerous? I think it's curious, she said. And curiosity can be just as dangerous. That evening, the crew held a meeting in the briefing room. Fear hung heavy in the air. Some wanted to leave the nebula immediately, before the ship suffered another power surge. Others were drawn by the mystery. The idea of a human echo, a living memory, fascinated them. Elias listened to their arguments quietly, then stood. We're explorers, he said. If this nebula holds human data, it's part of our story. We can't turn back now, the decision was made. They would move deeper into the nebula to track the signal's source. Hours later, as the Peregrine glided through the glowing mist, Dr. Voss monitored the frequency from her console. The pulse is getting stronger, she said. We're close. Outside, light waves rippled like liquid. They formed brief, ghostly shapes, outlines of faces, bodies, fragments of what looked like people. Each one faded the moment anyone tried to focus on it. Kane muttered under his breath, I don't like this. Feels like we're flying through someone's dream. Then the comms came alive again. Elias? The voice was louder this time, clear and calm. Do you remember the ocean? Elias's breath caught. Yes, he whispered. Mara, I remember. Then remember this too. The ship's systems flickered. The lights dimmed and suddenly a projection appeared in front of them. Not from any of the ship's devices, but from the nebula itself. It was a memory. A beach, warm, golden, endless. Elias stood frozen as he saw himself there, younger, laughing beside Mara. The same day they said goodbye before her experiment. The scene shimmered like sunlight on water, then faded away. Dr. Voss looked stunned. It's projecting your memories. It's inside your mind. Before anyone could react, the image changed again, this time showing the lab where Mara had once worked. Sparks flew from a broken console. She was standing there, surrounded by light. Her voice echoed faintly. "You shouldn't have come here. They listen when you do." Then shapes began forming in the nebula outside, dozens of them. Human silhouettes made of light, their features shifting and blending. They surrounded the ship, whispering in a language no one could understand. Kane's hands shook as he grabbed the controls. "Captain, I'm reading multiple energy signatures." "They're everywhere!" The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a chorus of soft, echoing voices. Dr. Voss shouted over the noise. "They're not attacking, they're communicating." Elias stared at the glowing forms outside. He could almost feel their presence pressing against his mind. He closed his eyes and whispered, "What do you want?" One voice broke through the others, Mara's voice. "To be remembered." The words hit him like lightning. Every screen on the ship flashed with streams of code, human DNA patterns and ancient communication fragments. The nebula wasn't just alive, it was a memory field, an archive of consciousness. Every echo, every light, every whisper. They were the remains of minds that had touched this place. The bridge fell silent again as the lights returned to normal. The ghostly figures faded one by one until only the endless blue mist remained. Elias looked down at his trembling hands. "They want us to remember them," he said quietly. Dr. Voss nodded slowly. "But if we do, what happens to us?" Kane swallowed hard. "Captain, I think it's time to go." Elias didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the glowing heart of the nebula in the distance. The signal was stronger now, almost calling his name, and deep inside that light he thought he saw her again. Watching, waiting. Her words echoed once more in his mind. Soft, sorrowful, and unshakable. "You should not have found me." Not yet. Outside, the nebula pulsed again, faster now, a rhythm like a heartbeat. And somewhere in that rhythm, the Peregrine systems picked up a new transmission. This one carried two voices. Mara's. And another, faint but human. "Help us remember." The ISS Peregrine floated deeper into the glowing heart of the Rho Draconis Nebula. Outside the observation windows, the swirling clouds of blue, violet, and gold seemed alive, moving in patterns that made no natural sense. Every pulse of light felt like a heartbeat, not of a star, but of something conscious. Captain Elias Trent stood at the bridge, staring at the radiant mist beyond the hull. He could feel it calling him, drawing him in. After days of following the signals, witnessing the echoes, and hearing Mara's voice, he understood one thing clearly. This nebula wasn't just a collection of gases and radiation. It was a living archive of memory, an alien intelligence shaped by thought, emotion, and human consciousness. Dr. Lyra Voss monitored the ship's instruments, her face tense. "Captain, the readings are off the charts. Energy signatures are multiplying. Whatever is inside this nebula, it's reacting to us directly." Navigator Kane clutched his console, eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like this. It's like the nebula knows we're here, and it's learning from us." Elias nodded silently. He had no doubt. He could feel it too. The faint whispers in his mind. Not just Mara's anymore, but dozens of voices. All human. All asking to be remembered. Suddenly, the bridge lights flickered. In front of the observation window, shapes began to form. Not projections, not holograms, but silhouettes of light that mirrored human figures. Each one shifted subtly, as if alive. They surrounded the ship, circling slowly, whispering in languages both familiar and strange. Elias's heart raced. He spoke into the silence. "Mara, is that you?" A familiar voice, soft and steady, came from the chorus.
"Yes, Elias, it is me."
"And many others like me." The captain's eyes filled with tears.
"How is this possible?"
"How are yous here? The nebula preserved us. Not as bodies, but as memories, consciousness, your project, my project. It reached farther than anyone imagined. And the nebula remembered," Dr. Voss gasped. "So all the human DNA patterns we've detected, they're echoes of actual minds?" "Yes. Each one is a fragment of a soul preserved inside the nebula's structure. It learns by memory, by emotion. By remembering pain and love, it becomes more aware." Kane shivered. "This is incredible. And terrifying. They're alive in some sense." Elias swallowed hard. "But why me? Why show yourself to me?" Mara's voice softened. Because you came. You reached for me. Your hand connected even briefly, and the nebula noticed. You were human enough to care, enough to love. That made a difference. The captain's chest tightened. What do you want me to do? To remember, and to choose. You can leave and forget us, or you can stay and ensure humanity is never lost. But if you stay, you will change. And so will the nebula. Dr. Voss stepped closer to Elias. Captain, listen. Staying could mean integrating with the nebula. Your mind, your body. You might never return to the ship or Earth. It's irreversible. Elias turned to her, his eyes fierce. I know, but if we leave, all of them vanish. Humanity, my wife, forgotten. I cannot do that. A chorus of whispers swelled outside the windows. Each voice carried fragments of memory. Laughter, sorrow, triumph, and loss. Elias felt their emotions flood his mind. Pain, hope, longing. Every human feeling amplified 1,000 times. He staggered, gripping the console for support. Mara's voice pierced through the chorus. Elias, you can give us a chance to live again. To be remembered. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Then we will do it. Whatever it takes. Dr. Voss hesitated. Captain, we don't know what will happen. The ship, our bodies. We could be lost forever. Elias met her gaze. Some things are worth the risk. Humanity's memory is one of them. With that decision, the crew set the ship's engines for the center of the nebula's heart, a region where the pulse of light was strongest. As the peregrine moved forward, the nebula responded. The energy waves aligned with the ship's trajectory. Shapes of memory formed around them, coalescing into a cathedral of light. Elias felt as though he were entering a sacred place, a living monument to everything humans had ever been. Inside the nebula, space and time seemed to bend. The ship's instruments could no longer measure distance or energy accurately. Colors danced across the hull, morphing into landscapes, mountains, rivers, cities, and people. Every vision was a memory from Earth or from the human past. Elias saw his childhood, his parents, Mara laughing in the sun. He saw wars, inventions, music, love, and loss, all of it intertwined with the energy of the nebula. The chorus of voices rose to a crescendo. Elias's mind filled with fragments of countless lives, each one urging him forward. He understood now the nebula didn't just store memory. It amplified human emotion, giving every thought and feeling weight and form. Mara's light figure appeared again, close to him this time. She reached for him, her fingers almost tangible. He felt warmth, a pull toward her. Elias, you can be part of this. You can help humanity live forever. He looked at Dr. Voss. She was watching him silently, her expression a mix of awe and fear. Kane stood behind her, pale but steady. Captain, if we do this, there's no coming back. Elias nodded. I understand. But I cannot abandon her or them. Humanity deserves to be remembered. The ship's hull vibrated as the nebula's energy surged. Lights flashed across the bridge. The shadows of memory danced across the walls. And then, in a moment of calm clarity, Elias spoke into the silence. Take me to them. Take me to her, and show me how to remember. The nebula responded. Energy swirled into the ship, entering through every surface. The air felt thick with memory, as if the past and present had merged. Elias felt his mind expand, merging with the whispers, the colors, and the shapes around him. He could feel every emotion, every thought, every heartbeat of the countless humans stored here. He understood them, fear, hope, love, regret, all of it. And he embraced it. Mara's voice was with him, steady and loving. You're home, Elias, and now so are we. The ship's systems began transmitting automatically, sending logs, coordinates, and encrypted messages back toward Earth. The human mind, carried in a vessel of metal and light, became a bridge and a record of existence, love, and discovery. Every fragment of memory within the nebula would now be preserved through Elias and the peregrine's transmission. Outside, the nebula pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were breathing. For the first time, it experienced human emotion directly, the courage, compassion, and connection that defined humanity. It learned what humans were capable of, not destruction, but remembrance, hope, and sacrifice. Dr. Voss and Kane watched from the escape pod as Elias guided the peregrine deeper. The ship shimmered, dissolving into light, becoming part of the nebula. Then silence. The pod drifted quietly as the nebula returned to its gentle, swirling state. Yet inside that storm of energy, Consciousness thrived. Mara, Elias, and countless others existed in a new form, a memory beyond flesh yet more alive than ever. Years later, back on Earth, scientists received a signal. It was faint, almost impossible to detect. When decoded, it revealed not just data, coordinates, logs, readings, but fragments of consciousness, voices, and patterns that spoke of human life and emotion. They could hear laughter, love, and sorrow woven together, echoing across the stars, and one line repeated clearly, "Tell them we remember." Humanity had reached the stars in more ways than anyone had imagined, not by conquering planets or weapons of war, but by the strength of memory, emotion, and connection. Even in the vastness of space, humans had left a mark that no alien force, no nebula, and no passage of time could erase. The nebula pulsed once more, steady, alive, and full of human memory. And somewhere within its heart, Captain Elias Trent held Mara's hand again, this time by choice. Together they had become the guardians of memory, proof that humanity's greatest strength was not technology nor power, but the heart.